Hello everyone. My name is Arpit Lahoti. Just to give a brief background, I am a chartered accountant, completed 3 levels of CFA while working at Deloitte in the investment banking team. I then went for my MBA at IIM Ahmedabad. Currently, I am working as an intern at Sealink Capital, which is a mid-market private equity firm, and I'll be joining McKinsey as a consultant in a full role. I'm here for various finance. We'll see what different qualifications are there and what are the sort of careers that are available to finance professionals in India. And apart from that, another thing that we'll be looking at in detail is the CFA course. And then after I'm done with this very brief presentation that I've made, we can just open the floor for questions and I can take the questions. So I'll just start. So just a disclaimer, the information shared here is obviously indicative. And in case you want to know in detail about these things, the best way would be to go through the official resources, as well as speak to people who have qualifications that are there in general. So there are some graduate and there are some postgraduate courses and there are some certification courses as well. So BCom, CA, CFA, Certified Management Accountant. There are shorter courses like CFP. Then, I'm sorry, am I audible? Okay. Sorry for that disturbance. Yes, so we have, so I was talking that there are some shorter courses like CFP, and we also have courses like specialized courses like financial risk manager, etc. So we won't be talking in detail about these, but in case you have specific questions, you can ask me later. And I have done BCom, CA, CFA, and MBA, but I have a bit of idea about these other subjects as well. But in case not, then I'll just let you know. So I will actually first go to the careers in finance and then I'll come back to CFA. So if you look at the different careers in finance that I have listed on over here, commercial banking, corporate finance, credit analysis, equity research, financial risk management, IB, project finance, wealth management, and private equity. There is one more which I have not put over here, which is due diligence, which I'll talk about. So the way I'm going to do this is I'll just give a very brief idea of what the role entails, what are the general qualifications required to get into that role, and who are the typical recruiters in that particular role. So commercial banking is basically, in case you have bank accounts, relationship managers, in case you have heard or talked to any relationship managers, that is essentially what commercial banking is. So relationship managers can be for individuals as well as corporates. The whole raison d'etre of commercial banking is to sort of generate and grow a bank's customer base. An RM is supposed to service its clients, whether it be in terms of investments or getting deposits or getting loans. So all these requirements are supposed to be handled by the relationship manager. What are the qualifications generally? So generally, there is some disturbance. Sorry. Just give me 1 second. Okay. So the qualification, generally, most of the relationship managers are either MBAs in finance or marketing. You must have realized that this is not a core finance role. It is a mix of finance and marketing. So most RMs are either MBAs in finance or marketing. I've also seen some RMs who have, especially in Indian banks, wherein you can get in with a graduate degree as well or a CA. Uh, Generally the way recruitment works is many banks offer internships in the first year of MBA to candidates, and then they are onboarded later in full-time roles. Starting salary for a commercial banking RM is around 7 to 10 lakhs per annum. Just a quick word about the salary figures that I'm going to be quoting over here. These are indicative salary figures, would vary a lot depending from bank to bank as well as experience level. The way I've got these salary figures is going through resources on these particular job profiles, and it would be good if, in case you are interested in a particular profile, it would be good if you can speak to someone who is already in that profile to get a better sense of the pay. MNC banks would generally pay higher, and that will be true for almost every career profile. So MNC banks would pay higher, around INR 12 lakhs per annum, along with variable bonus. Typically, the variable bonus would be dependent on the sort of business generated by the relationship manager. The recruiters, of course, are the banks, public sector as well as private sector banks. Ayur, can you hear me? Uh, there are some participants raising hands, but since I'm sharing the screen, I won't be able to.
Yeah, I can hear you, Arpit. We'll take questions towards the end. You can complete your presentation for the next 15-20 minutes, and then we'll open up for the question, and then we can take.
Perfect. Okay. So, guys, I'll just take questions towards the end. So, in case you have any questions, just you can put them probably in the chat icon, and I'll answer all of them later.
So, guys, if you have any questions, just put them in the chat. Arpit will answer them one by one towards the end.
Okay. The second career path that I'm moving towards is corporate finance or general financial management. Now, all of you must have heard about accounting. What corporate finance is a slightly forward-looking version of accounting. Accounting serves as the base data to conduct corporate finance functions, for example, budgeting, planning, making MIS, etc., etc. So generally, all companies would have a corporate finance division. At least all big companies would have. So the key areas of responsibility, if you separate out accounting and bookkeeping, there will also be reporting and analysis of financial data, which is the MIS part. You would be looking at assessing funding needs, assessing working capital requirements, preparing specific project reports, financial models. You would also probably be looking at the capital budgeting strategies, which are the investment strategies. And in case your company is undergoing any transaction, then you will be assisting the due diligence teams or the investment bankers, etc. Sometimes risk management and treasury management are also a part of the overall corporate finance team only, and they are not separate verticals. Uh, Risk management I'll talk about later. Treasury management is basically how the company invests its short-term cash and where it, for example, in bonds or in money market instruments, etc. The corporate finance division would, of course, report to the CFO of the company, and the CFO in turn would report to the CEO of the board. Qualifications, generally you will have chartered accountants working in this role and MBAs in finance. There is a possibility of a graduate also entering this role, but the chances are slightly low. Generally, it is seen that the recruiters are generally more, they would prefer CAs or MBAs with some experience in these roles. Certifications like CFA may give you an extra edge, but it is not completely necessary for a corporate finance role. Starting salaries, it's quoted here as 5 to 7 lakhs per annum, but I know a few people who earn more like 10 to 12 lakhs even at the start. So this would vary a lot depending on the company that you are in and depending on the firm that you are in. Typical recruiters, all large companies, including banks, would have a corporate finance division. The next is credit analysis. You must have heard of credit agencies like CRISIL and ICRA. So the role of a credit analyst is to assess the debt profile of a company and understand whether the company would be able to service its debt. It is not just for companies, actually, it is also for individuals as well. And of course, credit rating agencies also rate countries. So, for example, the sovereign debt of India, of USA, etc., etc. This is a highly specialized role wherein it's sort of the core finance role, as people say. Requires analysis of financial statements, credit ratings. You would also have to conduct a lot of third-party verifications, personal interviews, etc. The qualifications for this, again, generally CAs and MBAs are preferred for this role. Graduates may be hired as management trainees as well. Again, over here, CFA and FRM designations can really improve your profile. Starting salary would be 6 to 8 lakhs per annum. But as you move up ahead, it can grow substantially. Your typical recruiters, apart from credit rating agencies, commercial banks, NBFCs would also be looking to hire credit analysts. The whole purpose is for people to analyze debt repayment capacity. So banks would have as much need as credit rating agencies. What I mean by KPOs is back-end functions. So there are certain firms which provide these services. So for example, if firm A wants to do a credit analysis, they might rely on a back-end firm which would do all of these services for a fee. So those are known as knowledge KPOs. Next up is equity research. So just as we saw, credit analysts would be looking at debt, equity research would be looking at equities, as the name suggests. Most banks would have an equity research division, which sort of gives out their output is the stock research report, which all of you must have seen. What you are going to be analyzing over here is fundamentals of the companies. You will be doing valuation of companies. You will be looking at industry, company specific data. You would be looking at management, and you would be looking at valuation as well. This role would involve a lot of conversations with industry participants, not just managements, but also sector experts, etc. So it is a role which involves a lot of coordination and collaboration, and because of that, there is a very high learning potential as well. Now, I would just like to classify equity research into two parts. There is sell-side equity research and there is buy-side equity research. Sell-side equity research is wherein a bank is doing equity research and then sells the reports, that is to subscribers. For example, if you have a brokerage account with HDFC Bank and you get those equity research reports from your bank, those are sell-side equity research reports. Buy-side equity research reports would be made when, let's say, you are working for an AMC. So within HDFC, if you are working in HDFC Asset Management, then you will be preparing similar reports. But the purpose of these reports would not be to sell them to any outside organization, but for you to make decisions, for the asset management company to make decisions on whether or not they should invest in a company. Asset management companies, just to clarify, run the mutual funds that people can invest in. So equity research divided into sell side and buy side. Qualifications which are generally preferred. You can get in with a graduate degree in smaller equity research houses, but generally they would prefer a CA. If you are looking to target bigger equity research houses, then they would want an MBA, especially the larger banks would prefer an MBA from top tier B schools, for example, the top 10 to 15 B schools in India. CFA can prove very handy in equity research. In fact, equity research is the one field where CFA is looked upon very highly. So in case you are planning to get into equity research, CFA would be a very, very good course to get to do. Now, the starting salary over here in Indian boutique banks, the starting salary would be around 8 to 12 lakhs per annum. If you start in bulge bracket banks, then the starting salary is around 25 to 35 lakhs per annum. So there is a huge difference. This is a highly well-paying profession. Of course, comes with its own stress, because you have to sort of churn out reports very quickly sometimes. Typical recruiters, banks and brokerage houses, you can differentiate between the international and the Indian names. So Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, Nomura, Barclays, etc. These would be the bulge bracket international names, which are more prestigious and which would pay more. There are notable Indian names would be Kotak Mahindra, ICICI Securities, HDFC, etc., which would also be involved in similar work. Financial risk management, generally over here you would be doing risk modeling. derivatives, pricing, etc. So this is a very, very niche field. So what I would suggest is, uh, in case you are taking up courses pertaining to this field, then be very sure that you want to do this, because the exit opportunities from here would be quite limited, because this is a very specialized field. Qualifications, again, you need an MBA in finance or a master's in mathematics or statistics. Reason being, it's a very quantitative oriented field. Additional qualifications which can be an add-on are financial risk manager or professional risk manager qualifications. Starting salary over here, it's quoted as 6 to 8 lakhs per annum, but it's really dependent on the firm. So financial risk managers could actually make upwards of 15 lakhs, 20 lakhs per annum as well, depending on the firm that they are involved in. Typical recruiters, again, banks and financial institutions, consultants. MBB here stands for the management consultancies like McKinsey, BCG, Bain, etc. Big Fours here stands for the Big Four accounting firms like which are Deloitte, EY, PwC, and KPMG. Then you have other consultancies like Accenture. You have credit rating agencies like CRISIL. Conglomerates would also be hiring for this specific role, financial risk management, and risk teams of any other firm. Investment banking, one of the most lucrative professions and one of the most sought after professions in finance. Investment banking typically has three verticals: equity capital markets, which is ECM, debt capital markets, which is DCM, and M&A and PE syndication. ECM is involved with, for example, if a company wants to do an equity issue or it wants to do an IPO or a follow-on public offer, they would approach an investment bank, which would help them sort of do the book building process or list on the stock exchanges, take care of all the regulatory aspects, valuation aspects, etc. DCM is, let's say, a company is looking to issue bonds. So if they are looking to issue debt or they are looking to raise debt, then the debt capital market guys come in picture, and they would be helping with debt syndication. M&A and private equity syndication. Today, you must have heard of Facebook investing money in Reliance Jio. So that is an example of a M&A transaction, so to say, and Morgan Stanley was the advisor over here. So M&A transactions and private equity transactions are basically either merging companies acquiring one another, or a private equity player investing in a company. In case you are not aware of what private equity firms are, I'll be covering them later. Private equity firms, just to keep it short, are pools of funds which invest in companies. Apart from them, the investment banks also provide certain corporate broking services, etc. But the main verticals would be ECM, DCM, and M&A, as we discussed. Now, how to get into investment banking? Probably one of the toughest fields to get into. If you are targeting one of the bigger banks, then you need to have an MBA from a top tier B school. People from IITs and other elite engineering colleges and some CAs as well get into investment banking roles, but generally most firms would prefer an MBA. CFA can help in investment banking, but from what I've understood, CFA is not a very big differentiator when it comes to investment banking, unlike equity research, wherein CFA is looked upon very high. Now, salary for an analyst role in investment banking. Again, as we talked about earlier, bulge bracket banks are those international banks like Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, Bank of America, etc. So over there, the salary would be close to 30 to 35 lakhs per annum, and bonuses would range from 20 to 70% per annum. So, and sometimes in a good year, the bonuses can actually go up to 100% as well. There are certain KPOs. So for these bulge bracket banks like Citi, JP Morgan, etc., they also have KPOs in India, which are assist investment banking teams in USA, Australia, etc. This will be back-end work, so you would not be having too much client interaction over here in these roles. The pay is lesser. It would be around INR 10 to 12 lakhs per annum for a starting position, with again bonuses ranging from 20 to 70%. Indian boutique firms, these are the very small investment banks, which would be paying around INR 7 to 8 lakhs per annum and lower bonuses than bulge bracket banks. In investment banking, a lot of your salary as you move up will be determined by the quantum of deals that is done by your specific group as well as the firm. So the remuneration can actually go very high in case the firm has done well in that past year or your team has done well in that past year. The typical recruiters are similar to what we saw in equity research. Project finance. So several banks and financial institutions would have a project financing arm. What they do is they analyze projects like large infrastructure projects like roads, highways, etc., to figure out if they are good candidates for giving debt, and then these project finance companies arrange debt funding for them. So you will have banks with project finance arms. You will have infrastructure players with project finance arms as well. There are two aspects to the role. One is advisory, wherein you will be helping someone assess whether this infrastructure project, how much debt this infrastructure project should raise, and whether it is credit worthy or not. And the second aspect is wherein you will do the syndication of debt. Syndication basically means bringing together a lot of lending institutions to cover the debt. So in infrastructure projects, generally a single bank would not take exposure to the entire project. 4, 5, or maybe even a larger number of banks would come together. So the role of the project finance professional is to get together all of these banks and get the debt to the infrastructure project. Qualifications, again, CAs and MBAs would generally be preferred. Graduates are also taken in, especially if you have worked in some infrastructure company like L&T in the past. Starting salary would be around 8 to 12 lakhs per annum, and of course will increase uh, exponentially once you start moving up. Typical recruiters, banks would be hiring project finance people, NBFCs as well, and consulting firms like the big four accounting firms as well would hire. And of course, the infrastructure players like L&T, GMR, etc., would be hiring for project finance roles. Wealth management. Wealth managers, their role is they are basically financial advisors who would be assessing their clients with the entire portfolio management strategy, investment strategy, and portfolio management. Clients over here would generally be high net worth individuals or ultra high net worth individuals who will have an investable surplus of more than 5 crores. So the role of a wealth manager is basically not just guiding on the investments to be made, but also doing proper retirement planning and, of course, meeting other financial goals, etc. Helping with taxation issues, creating legal entities like trust funds, estate planning, etc. The way the fee model works is there will be a fixed fee and there will be a variable component depending on the amount that you are managing. The relationship manager that we saw earlier, it is sort of a subset of wealth management is sort of a subset of that, but wealth managers would typically focus on high net worth individuals as we discussed. Qualifications, again, MBA, CAs are preferred. Over here, the CFP designation, which is the Certified Financial Planner, this is a specialized certification course specifically for wealth management. So that will prove in very handy, as well as CFA can prove in very handy in this role. Starting salary would be around 8 to 10 lakhs, but there will be a good variable component as well, depending on the amount of business that you are handling. Typical recruiters would be banks and financial institutions. Within financial institutions, you would have Aditya Birla Money, Motilal Oswal, etc. Next, we come to private equity and venture capital. Now, just to give a very brief explanation of what private equity is. So, just like we can invest in public markets in listed stocks, there are a lot of private companies as well which are not listed, which require capital, which require equity capital. Private equity firms, what they do is they will take money from investors who have investable surplus. These investors would generally be large funds or endowment funds. For example, colleges have endowment funds, so they would invest in private equity, or they will be ultra high net worth individuals or certain firms, etc. So what they will do, what these private equity firms would do is they will take money from all of these different investors and pool it in a fund. Then they will use this money to invest in private companies. While I'm saying private companies, there are a lot of private equity firms which invest in public companies as well, but most of it would be concentrated in private companies which are not listed. The reason why they are so keen on investing in private companies is because there is a very high information asymmetry over here. So there is a possibility of making much more returns than what you would generally make in public markets. Venture capital is a subset of private equity. So when you are investing in very early stage companies, for example, let's consider Flipkart 10 years back. 10 years back, Flipkart was investing in private equity. 10 years back, Flipkart was investing in private equity. 10 years back, Flipkart was investing in private equity. 10 years back, Flipkart was investing in private equity. 10 years back, Flipkart was investing in private equity. 10 years back, Flipkart was investing in private equity. 10 years back, Flipkart was investing in private equity. 10 years back, Flipkart was investing in private equity. 10 years back, Flipkart was investing in private equity. 10 years back, Flipkart was investing in private equity. 10 years back, Flipkart was investing in private equity. 10 years back, Flipkart was investing in private equity. 10 years back, Flipkart was investing in private equity. 10 years back, Flipkart was investing in private equity. 10 years back, Flipkart was inves So the investments made then would qualify as a venture capital investment. So investments in startups would be venture capital, and it's a subset of private equity. Qualifications, you require an MBA. Most likely, it's almost impossible to get into private equity or venture capital without a MBA from a top tier institution. Uh, but there are certain firms which would hire engineers as well, but they would be looking at IITs most likely. Another way to get into venture capital is, of course, if someone has taken the entrepreneurship route, and after that, once they've gathered entrepreneurship experience, they can get into venture capital as well. But generally, for most people, it would require an MBA. Plus, often these people do not hire freshers. A lot of firms do not hire freshers. What they would want is experience in top tier investment banking or consulting firms, and only post that do they hire you as an analyst in private equity or venture capital. Typical recruiters within PEs. So we have good Indian private equity players like Everstone, Multiples, etc. And we have bulge bracket private equity firms which are either US or Europe based, like Blackstone, Carlyle, KKR, etc. Indian Ps, as I said, multiples. There are others like NIF, which is an infrastructure focused fund, IFL, ICICI Venture Fund, etc. VCs, the popular ones are Sequoia, Matrix, SEF, Lightspeed, Eight Roads, etc. I have not written the remuneration over here because it is quite dependent on the firm that you are joining. But typically, in case you are joining a bulge bracket private equity firm like say Blackstone or Carlyle, then your annual salary, including variable, would range from around 60 to 70 lakhs in the first year. If you are joining Indian PEs, then it would be somewhere close to 25 to 40 lakhs. If you are joining venture funds, again, if they are bigger venture funds like Sequoia or Matrix, then your salary would be close to 50 to 70 lakhs. But there are a lot of small VC funds which would not pay a very high fixed salary, but there can be a very good variable component. So the fixed salary in small VC funds, for example, some 20 to $30 million funds would be, let's say, close to 10 to 15 lakhs per annum, but there will be a good variable component over there. Just one more thing, the way a private equity firm makes money is very interesting. So they will be charging a fixed percentage. So generally it's 2 plus 20 structure, wherein 2% of the assets under management are charged as a fixed fee, and 20% of all the gains are also charged. So you will realize that if a private equity firm does well for its clients, it does very well for itself as well. So that 20% is called the carry component, and that forms the majority of your compensation as you move ahead in this role. There is one more career that I wanted to talk about, which I have not listed over here, which is financial due diligence. So generally, financial due diligence recruiters would be the big fours, and there are some specialized firms which offer financial due diligence services. Now, the difference between due diligence and audit is due diligence is a lot more analytical. It requires a lot more deep dive into specific stuff. You are not just checking whether the accounting is done correctly, but we're actually checking whether there is something hidden in the books, or whether there are any red flags in the transaction. Typically, whenever a company is acquiring uh, some other company or investing in some other company, or a PE fund is investing in some company, they would assign the financial due diligence to some of these big fours or some other firms, and they are supposed to come up with a report within 3 to 4 weeks, sometimes longer, stating whether there are any red flags in the books of the company in which the investment is being made. There would also be certain adjustments. For example, company A has said that its profit is 100 crores, but based on your analysis, the profit is actually the correct profit is actually only 90 crores. So these are the sort of outputs that uh, investors are looking for from financial due diligence professionals. Again, to get into financial due diligence, generally they would prefer chartered accountants. CFA does not really help in this particular profession. It can be an add-on, can help to differentiate, but just having a CFA would not help. And MBA in finance is a good degree to have for these for financial due diligence service. So these were the careers in finance, and I'll take questions at the end. I'm sure there will be some questions. I'll take the questions at the end. I'll just jump into CFA. I'm going to try and provide a very brief overview of what CFA is. So CFA program is a professional qualification offered by CFA Institute, which is based out of USA. The good thing about CFA is that it's globally recognized. So there is a standardized test which is given. The same test is given by people across the globe, and the checking is also very standardized. So it's very well recognized across the globe. Uh, how to become a CFA? There are 3 levels. You have to successfully clear those 3 levels, and in order to become a CFA charter holder, which comes with its own set of privileges, you not only have to clear the 3 levels of CFA exam, but you are also required to have 4 years of relevant work experience. So before you become a charter holder, you can state that you have cleared the 3 levels of CFA, but after your 4 years of relevant work experience, you can prefix CFA to your name. Uh, so CFA syllabus comprises some 10 key topics, which I'll cover in the next slide. Career opportunities after CFA, I think we have already discussed. The most sought after role for CFAs would be equity research, because equity research places a lot of importance on the CFA designation. It can act as an add-on qualification for other roles like investment banking, private equity. In portfolio management as well, CFA is very sought after. So portfolio management and equity research are the 2 roles where CFA can really help. And in the other roles, it can act as an add-on qualification. So we discussed that CFA exam comprises of 3 levels. The passing rate is usually around 40%. But if you compare it to other courses like CA, wherein the passing rate is only 10%, it is actually much easier to pass in CFA. But still, it is considered an exam which requires very sincere preparation to clear, especially for people who have no finance background. I'll just go through the 3 levels that we have. So level 1, focusing on very basic concepts. In case you are a chartered accountant or are studying chartered accountancy, or you are a BCom graduate, then level 1 will be very, very simple. There is hardly anything advanced in that. Level 2 is a bit complex. In fact, level 2 is generally considered to be the toughest level amongst the 3 levels. It was considered tougher than level 3 as well. Level 2 would focus more on valuation of assets. So again, by the way, level 1 and level 2 are MCQ based papers. Level 3, it will have MCQs as well as essay type questions. Now, essay type questions are subjective questions wherein you are supposed to write the answer in around 5 to 6 lines. The subjects which are covered in CFA, you can just see them. Ethics, professional standards, quantitative methods would be covered in level 1 and 2. There's a fair bit of economics. Financial reporting and analysis is quite important. Corporate finance also. I'm sorry, I think over here it's written that only level 1 and 2 have corporate finance and financial reporting analysis, but there are components of both of these topics in level 3 as well. Then you have equity investments, so basically valuation of equity investments, fixed income derivatives, alternative investments, etc. And of course, portfolio management and wealth management. So these are the 10 subjects, and broadly, these are the same subjects will be covered in each level, just that the level of complexity would keep on increasing as we move on. I won't go into the fee details because you can see the updated fee details on the CFA website in case you want to register. There is a registration fee and there is an examination fee. This year, exams are not happening in June because of the whole COVID situation, so exams will only happen in December. They will assign you a test center. Earlier, CFA, a few years back, for doing CFA, you had to move out, you had to travel abroad because there were no test centers in India, but now there are. So there is no issue as such in giving CFA. So with that, I'm done with my presentation. I'll just give me a second. I'll just go through the questions that are listed on the chat box. I would suggest that in case anyone has any questions, please list them on the chat box itself rather than asking individually, and I'll try to answer all of them. Okay, so Preetham has asked this question that please cover Chartered Wealth Manager by AFM. I'm sorry, but I don't have a lot of knowledge about this particular course. It seems to be a very niche course focused on portfolio management or wealth management. The best way would be to speak to someone who has already done this course. One thing that I would caution over here is that you must have realized that majority of the professions that I spoke about, they either require CA or BCom or MBA in finance. So these degrees open up a lot more avenues than these specific courses. So in case you are going to do a very niche course, then just be sure that you are keen on that field only, and then you, because the possibilities of shifting to other fields might be very limited later on. Is it worth doing CMA US in India? Uh, it is, but I would say that CMA is not. It is recognized, but it is not as well recognized as CA or CFA in India. And management accountants. So you will be the typical recruiters would generally be corporates who are interested in filling management accounting roles. But I would say that CA is a much broader role, which would enjoy a lot more acceptance. How is the work-life balance of corporate finance? In case you are working in a bank or a company, then I would say that uh, it's definitely not a 9 to 5 job, but overall the work-life balance is very good. I'll just rank all the finance professions that we discussed in terms of work-life balance. So from worst to best, I think investment banking would fall at the worst of the spectrum, because investment bankers generally put in typically 70 to 80-hour weeks. This is a good week, so it can go up to 90 hours a week as well, and then often there are no weekends available to them. So investment banking would rank quite badly on that spectrum. Of course, it pays very well, so people still want to get into investment banking. Apart from that, a very clear way of differentiating would be whom are you working for. So in case you're working for a service organization like a Big Four or a Big Four or some other consultancy firm, then your work-life balance would generally be slightly worse off than if you're working in a corporate. So that is the way you can stack all the roles. Equity research can get quite bad sometimes, especially during the quarterly reporting seasons, but in general it is much better than investment banking. Private equity and venture capital, again, during deals it can get very hectic, and there are some bulge bracket firms which are known to get their analysts to work as hard as investment banks, but typically private equity offers a much better work-life balance. Apart from this, the other roles like credit analyst, etc., would generally fall towards the mid of the spectrum. Again, differing based on whether you're working for a service organization or you're working for a corporate. Uh, the next question is, what about CFA for CAs? Uh, CFA is a good add-on qualification for CAs, especially if you want to get into equity research or portfolio management roles. Uh, but CFA would not help a lot in case you are looking to move into, let's say, private equity. For that, it is very advisable that after CA you do an MBA. CFA can help a bit in investment banking, but I've not seen it to be a make or break deal. It can just act as an add-on. So, in short, uh, for wealth management and equity research, CFA is a very good qualification to do after CA. But for the other roles, it can only serve as an add-on qualification. It cannot be a make or break thing. How to get into portfolio management and what is the scope of private wealth management in India? So if you want to get into portfolio management, CFA and CFP, Certified Financial Planner, are good courses to do. If you are doing CA as well, apart from these courses, it would be a very distinct advantage. The scope of private wealth management in India is actually very good, because we are seeing a lot of investable surplus coming to be invested in markets, and a lot more people are becoming comfortable with the idea of paying for advice, which earlier was not the case. So from that perspective, the scope of private wealth management is actually very good. And if you get into a big bank which is offering these services, then your career opportunity is also very good. Simran has asked a question: what a student should do to enhance in this field who belongs to 3-tier college. So in case you are not in a target college right now and you want to improve your qualifications, then you can either do additional qualifications like CA, or you can try on these add-on certification courses like CFA, etc. A good way to build your profile would be to sort of do internships in finance firms. you would it is very difficult to get a very good internship straight out of the gate, especially in case you are not currently studying at a target college. But even if you can show an interest in finance, that can serve as a ladder which can help you get into bigger and better firms. So my advice would be try to do as many additional courses as you can. If you can do CFA, if you can, CA would be the best in this case. And of course, try to get short internships at finance firms, whether it be equity research or whether it be corporate finance, etc., and build your profile from there. What is the difference between CFA and CA? There is a huge difference between these two courses. CA is way too rigorous and way too, I would say, broad-based compared to CFA. For CA, again, there are 3 levels. There is the common proficiency test, which you generally give after 12th, which is sort of the entrance exam for CA. Then you have to give an intermediate test called as IPCC, which happens 1 year after you give CPT. Then you have to serve for 3 years in a chartered accountancy firm as an article assistant. So you have to have 3 years of practical work experience before you give the CA final examination. So in all, CA can take anywhere from 4 to 5 years, and in case someone does not clear on the first attempt, it can take longer as well. Passing through this chartered accountancy course not just takes more time, but will also require significantly more effort because it's way more competitive. And I think another difference is that CA opens a lot more opportunities compared to CFA. So that is another aspect that you need to keep in mind. CA would prepare you for accounting, auditing, taxation, financial management, cost management, etc. So it's sort of like the jack of all trades qualification, whereas CFA as such is more, while it has flavors of all these subjects, it is more focused on wealth management and investments. So that is the key difference. If you want to know more, what I would suggest is going through the course outlines of both of these courses. That will give you a very good idea of what exactly each of these courses entails. What do you suggest for courses such as CWM? Again, it's a very niche course. I don't have a lot of idea about it. But what I said earlier about doing niche courses, that do them only if you are keen on going in those specific fields like wealth management, etc. Otherwise, they would not be very useful in other roles. What is the difference between an analyst and an accountant? See, these are just designations, but in the general sense, accountant, I'm assuming, would be doing accounting, but analyst can be any analyst. So it can be a financial planning analyst, it can be investment banking analyst, equity research analyst, etc. If you're asking me the difference between accounting and analysis, so accounting would generally focus on bookkeeping and accounting, which you must be aware of, and an analysis role could actually be anything of amongst the finance careers that we discussed. Could you please, so the next question is, could you please explain the whole work ex part in CFA? Okay, so in order to do CFA, you do not require work experience. You can start as a graduate student as well. What I was saying is, in order to get the CFA charter holder, the ability to call yourself, let's say, Arpit Lahoti CFA, that you will get that particular degree only once you have completed 4 years of work experience. But even if you have, even if you don't have 4 years of work experience, you can always tell in your resume that you have cleared level 1 or level 2 or level 3 of CFA, and that is as well recognized. So work experience is not a criterion for doing CFA. If we have cleared CA final, then do we need to give level 1 CFA? Yes, I think so. You need to give level 1 CFA, even if you have cleared CA final. There's no exception. The next question is, if I'm an engineer, would it help if I do CFA? If you want to get into finance, then CFA can be a very, very good course for engineers. Reason being, it demonstrates an interest in finance and it can sort of act as a starting point for you. So yes, if you are an engineer and you want to get into a finance specific role, then doing CFA would be very good. Of course, I would say that the best thing to do would be an MBA finance, but in case that's not possible and that's not the sort of time commitment that you want to make, then a CFA can be a very good qualification. The next question is, which has more value, FMS or IIM? I don't want to comment on individual colleges because IIM is a very broad term. There are a lot of IIMs. So each would have a different brand perception. In case you want to figure out what has more value, then what you can do is just go through the list of recruiters who are hiring and see who are your target recruiters. That will determine the value. I'm thinking there could be another angle to this question. If you have asked me about value, you could also be referring to the fact that FMS has amongst the lowest fees compared to other MBA institutions in India. So from a cost benefit perspective, I would say that FMS offers probably more value, but I would urge you not to think of it in the short term. Think of it as which of these colleges will enable you to make a career in the field that you want to make it in. So again, just go through their placement reports, look at the recruiters, and figure out which would be the right college for you based on that. The next question is Aman is doing a BBA in finance and planning to do an MBA in finance and marketing. Which course should I do for CFA or investment banking? If you're going to do an MBA in finance from a good college, then technically you do not require a CFA. Investment banking is not a course, but in case you are referring to courses offered by certain prep providers like Wall Street Prep School, etc., etc., then doing that can be a good add-on because it will teach you skills which BBA and even MBA might not teach. For example, financial modeling, making pitches, etc. So by all means, you can do a course in investment banking. CFA would require, of course, a lot more time commitment than a short investment banking course. But again, if you are going to do an MBA in finance from a very good college, then probably you don't need CFA. But it will always be a good add-on. Is CA articleship counted as experience in CFA? From what I know, it is not counted. You require full-time experience after proper graduation to be considered. So I would suggest that you check with the CFA Institute itself whether they are going to consider this particular experience. Is CMA India and CFA a good combination? Yes, it is a good combination because management accounting and financial analysis both would be covered over here. So I would say that yes, in case you are targeting those specific firms which are looking for CMAs and CFA, then having this combination can really be good. What the next question is, what about degrees like CFP? Would they stand somewhat equivalent to CFA? No, they are not equivalent to CFA. CFA is way more recognized than CFP. CFP is also very limited in its scope to financial planning, whereas CFA is a bit broader. So in case you are thinking amongst these two, then I would suggest that doing the CFA might be the better choice. Of course, go through the courses and speak to people who have done CFP as well as CFA and take your call. So what will be the best opportunities for an MBA from second tier and how could we apply? Generally, MBA colleges in India have campus placements. So typically most people would apply through that. But in case you are looking for specific roles like corporate finance, etc., then you can apply off campus as well. What would be the best opportunities? Generally, for a tier 2 MBA graduate, roles like private equity or investment banking would be very difficult to get in. But equity research and corporate finance and credit analysis, credit risk analyst, all of these roles are very much open to them. So these would be good opportunities to target. By the way, just a piece of advice, in case you are looking to get into a firm, a very good way is to sort of find people working in that firm through LinkedIn, especially if they are from the same college that you are attending, and just ping them and ask for an introduction, etc. This really helps, especially in finance careers. Next question. I'm an MBA finance student. In the first year, I aspire to do CFA, but I'm confused with other alternative certifications, which are somehow similar to it. So as I said, CFA, amongst the certification courses, I would say that CFA holds the most sway. It is considered to be the most well recognized and the broadest. So I would not rank CFA alongside other investment courses. But since you are already doing an MBA, just assess whether a CFA is going to lead to better career opportunities. That is first. Second, also assess whether you'll be able to devote the time to do CFA. CFA level 1 would be very easy, but level 2 would require good time commitment. So just think from that perspective as well. Our next question from Rohan. I am an engineer and I have completed CFA level 1. I am currently working in IT field as an analyst from last 3 years. Would it be better to switch career in finance now? If you are looking to switch to finance, then yes, I think you should switch now, because the longer you work in information technology, the more difficult it becomes to move to the finance role. What I would also suggest is that appear for CFA level 2 as well this year, because CFA, so within CFA, there is this an opinion that having just CFA level 1 does not do wonders, but even having CFA level 2 cleared can act as a very good signal. Of course, clearing all 3 levels is the best, but even if you have cleared CFA level 2, recruiters take you very seriously. So I would suggest that you do CFA level 2 as well and start applying to finance firms. It is quite possible that right now you will get interview calls from only small finance firms, but that's okay. You can always move to bigger finance firms once you have 1 to 2 years of finance experience. But yes, if you're planning to make a switch, then switch now. Don't wait much longer. Next question is from Prajwal. Okay. Secondly, should I do CFA after MBA during job, or should I enter in job while doing CFA also? You can do CFA whenever you want to, but I would never suggest keeping your job on hold for doing CFA, because CFA requires very part-time study. It does not require full-time focus as such. So a good idea would be to either do it with your MBA or do it during your job, but never do CFA standalone without having any other degree going on or any job going on. CFA can be done as a add-on to what you're currently doing. Okay, the next question is, I did not opt for mathematics in my senior secondary school. I'm pursuing BCom honors now. Would it cause any disadvantage ahead in my career in finance, as I am not aware of +2 mathematics and especially geometry? No, it would not cause any issues, except this field, like risk management, which we discussed, involves a lot of statistics, etc. Most of the mathematics that you will see in finance is very elementary, so you do not really have to worry about maths. And even if you don't know something, you can quickly pick it up once you enter career. So no, I don't think that not having a math background in +2 is going to hurt your chances anyway. Can you elaborate on undergrad IB recruiting from IITs in terms of the kind of resume required compared to consulting firms like MBB and the routes? They do not recruit on campus, unlike MBB and other consulting firms. Yes, consulting firms would generally come for campus placements. IB firms sometimes do. For example, Avendus has a program wherein they hire engineers for analyst roles. Kotak has a program wherein they hire CAs as well and engineers as well for the investment banking roles. So what you need to do is identify places wherein for an analyst role they do not require an MBA and apply there. Most likely you'll have to apply off campus. The sort of resume required, there is not much difference, but it would be very, very good in case you can show an interest in finance. So for example, let's say you have done a short finance project with some professor in your college, or you have done a short internship, or you have done CFA level 1 or 2. That can act as a very credible signal that you are looking to move into finance, and that can give a huge leg up over other candidates. So in short, most likely you'll have to apply off campus, and it will be good if you can show some interest in finance through your resume. Even if it's as simple as, analyzing firms, analyzing equities, and putting up a blog of your own, that can also help in some cases. Next question. What certification courses should we do along with MBA finance or CFA? I would say that if you are doing an MBA finance or CFA, you do not require more certification courses as such. But in case you are looking to get into a very specialized field, then you can consider doing some certification courses. But otherwise, you do not really need another finance degree on top of MBA Finance plus CFA. Next question, what should I do first, CFA or investment banking or financial modeling or FRM with my BBA? See, these are all very different things. CFA is a degree and investment banking, financial modeling are training courses. So, and FRM is a completely different degree compared to CFA, wherein it's more focused on risk management. So, first, please figure out what field you want to get into, and then decide whether you need a CFA or FRM. Investment banking and financial modeling courses can always be done along with your graduation, so there is no harm in doing them. They require very less time commitment anyway. Would you recommend to join MBA as a fresher or rather join after certain years of work? So it really depends. Because, for example, in IIM Ahmedabad, I would say around 35% of the batch had zero work experience and 65% had. And amongst that, the average work experience was around, I would say, 13, 14 months. So it's not really an advantage. It can act as an advantage if you have a certain work experience for certain roles. So in case you are getting into a good role right now after your graduation, then maybe yes, work for a year or two before going for an MBA. It will also help you a bit more in grasping the concepts that are taught in MBA. You'll be able to relate them more to your real life work experience. But let's say you are a fresher and you apply and you give CAT and you are getting a call from a very good IIM or some other good college, then maybe you can just go in if you do not have a very good job in hand right now. Is MBA Finance and CFA a good combination? Yes, but if you're doing MBA Finance from a good college, then CFA is not really required. So doing CFA after MBA, how worthy it is? I think I've already answered that. How to get into SBI capital markets? I think you need to figure out which specific role are you getting into. For several roles, I think they really prefer chartered accountants. But a good way, in case you're targeting the specific firm, is to just go on LinkedIn and figure out what the current employees have done as part of the qualifications and contact them. I want a core finance job and acquiring related skills. Should I go for an MBA or CFA? I think I've already covered this. Which finance? I think a lot of the questions are getting repeated. Can you explain your journey from CA to MBA and IIM? Because I'm currently pursuing CA final. The journey was very simple. I did CA final, then I worked in Deloitte for 2.5 years. Did my CAT. During that period, I also completed my CFA, and then I gave CAT, and then I went to IIM Ahmedabad. So a very typical journey wherein I had work experience before doing my MBA. What should I do for some? How much time is required to complete all the 3 levels of CFA? So in case you give CFA level 1 in December, you can give CFA level 2 next year itself. So I would say typically it takes people around 2.5 to 3.5 years to complete their CFA. What is the difference between an analyst and an associate? An analyst is generally a junior position compared to an associate. Typically, associate positions are reserved for MBAs, but of course that's not the norm. Just think of them as designations. Is it Is it easy for a CA to give CFA exams? Yes. Is it too early or too late for a BCom final year student to pursue a career of finance? It is definitely not too early because you're in the final year, and it's definitely not too late because you are still to graduate. So, by all means, if you want to get into a career in finance, please go ahead. What is a better option with BBA and finance, CFA or investment banking? I think I'm clarifying this again, but investment banking is not a course. It is a profession. So do not confuse it with CFA. What do you think about the placement prospects ahead during the COVID-19 scenario in the finance sector for fresh postgraduates in MBA? I think it can become slightly difficult because equity capital markets are slightly frozen up in terms of new IPOs coming in, and some M&A deals are put on hold. So it might be slightly difficult, but the consensus opinion is that the sector should bounce back pretty quickly once this issue is resolved. So I don't think one can make long-term career decisions based on what is happening in the short to medium term. Okay, I think I've covered. Can I do CFA while doing MBA? Yes, but it can get a bit difficult considering most MBA courses are a bit on the hectic side. From where can we prepare for CFA? Suggest some good coaching institutions. So there are so you can just do a simple Google search. There are coaching institutions like EduPristine, etc., which would offer good coaching for CFA. In case you already have a finance background, then you may not even require coaching. Just go through Schwezer notes, which are available in the market for CFA, and I think that would be enough. Is FRM limited to risk management only, or is that it has more applications as well? It is generally confined to risk management. It does touch upon other subjects as well, but generally an FRM is a very niche specialization. So you would typically get risk management roles only based on that degree. Can we complete CFA course in India and work in the US? See, technically you can, but just because you have a CFA, would US companies be, you know, very willing to hire you? Maybe not, because there are a lot of CFAs in USA as well. So you would need a very good profile, and you would probably need some connections, etc., to move to the US just on the back of a CFA. I'm in third year of BBA in Fin. When should I do CFA after MBA or with BBA? I'm looking for a job in Goldman Sachs or JP Morgan kind of company. Do a CFA whenever you can, but if you want to get into Goldman Sachs or JP Morgan, then you will require a top tier MBA, the top 5 colleges probably, because they actually Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan only go to IIM A, B, and C as far as I know. And if you are going to these colleges, then most likely you do not really require a CFA unless you are very keen to have an add-on certification. So if you want to do CFA, you can start now and start preparing for CAT as well. I'm an engineer. What should I prefer, CFA or MBA? An MBA would open up a lot more opportunities as we discussed. So in case you are willing to put in that sort of time commitment, then go for an MBA from a good college. If you are keen on equity research roles, then an MBA is not really required. You can just opt for a CFA. Level 1 candidate in CFA. I'm interested in going in equity research. What special courses should I do for that? You do not need to do any special courses. Maybe you can do some financial modeling courses which can help in equity research as well. Another thing that I would suggest is try to get an equity research internship at a small brokerage house, and that will really help you in getting a big firm down the road. How did you manage your CAT preparation while working in Deloitte? You can always wake up early, and you can study late at night as well. And of course, you get the weekends to study. So I would say I studied seriously for around 7 to 8 months. Serious preparation was for around 7 to 8 months. And every weekday, I was putting in around 2 hours of preparation every weekday, and every weekend, probably around 6 to 8 hours. So that, and of course, in the last month, you need to do a lot more than that. Can you explain your CAT preparation while working? I don't want to get into a lot more details about CAT preparation because this is sort of not the forum for that. But you will find a lot of good resources on web to explain that. how to get a job at a brokerage firm as an equity research analyst, either do a CFA or either do CA, CFA or MBA in finance. You are saying that you do not need to do CFA if you are in IMA, BSc, but with BBA, what should I do? So that's what I said, that if you are not very certain that you will do an MBA, then CFA is a very, very good combination with BBA. So might as well just start with CFA. But in case you are keen to do an MBA, then I was saying that just start preparing for CAT as well, probably now or a year or two later. Is NISM certification helpful in IB? No, it's not. NISM is not that well recognized. I am a biochemistry student interested in MBA in finance. Is it the right choice? It is the right choice if you want to get into a finance role. There's no other. I'm keen to do an MBA, but with BBA, what should I do? I think I've already answered this. So, Ayur, I think okay. Comments on NCFM certifications. They can act as add-ons, but they do not really have a very huge impact. And that is also reflective of the fact that NCFM certifications do not require a lot of effort as well. So by all means, in case you want to improve your knowledge and want to get those add-on certifications, go ahead. But they are not going to act as a make or break situation. I'm confused which course I should do: CFA, CFP, CMA, or FRM. See, these are all very disparate courses. Just decide what field you want to get into, and then decide the course that you should do. After we complete the 3 levels of CFA, can we work for 4 years and after those 4 years we get the charter holder, or do we need to have work ex before finishing all levels? I'm just clarifying this again. You do not require work experience to do CFA. You can give all the 3 levels even while having 0 work experience. What I was saying is CFA charter holder is a specific sort of, I would say, a degree which is conferred to you after you have work experience. So even if you do not have work experience, you can give all the 3 levels of CFA and you can write in your resume that I have cleared 3 levels of CFA. That will be as good as just having a CFA degree. So do not worry about work experience right now. Applying to off-campus for finance field, they will always ask for prior work experience. What is the best course to do? So you can decide, you can do CFA if you really want to do a course along with BBA in finance. But in case, again, I'm repeating myself, but in case you are planning to do an MBA in finance from a good college, you might not require a CFA course as such. Can I work after clearing CFA level 1? Yes, you can, but most likely you will get work at a smaller research house or a smaller firm. But of course, you can work after CFA level 1.
Hey, Arpit, quick time check. You can take final 1-2 questions.
I think I have already taken because the questions are repeating right now. So I think we can end it.
Yeah. Okay, then great. I think Aman Raj is asking one question with BBA in finance, which is.
I think I've already answered that, and he's repeating the same question again and again. So Aman, just to clarify, if you are doing BBA, then you can always do CFA as well. But if you are going to do an MBA in finance, you do not really require a CFA. So you decide which one do you want to focus on right now. How to get the last question that I'm taking is from Ratan. How to get a suitable profile for equity research and portfolio management? 3 qualifications which are really going to help: CA, CFA, and MBA in finance. Can I do CFA with BCom? Yes, you can do CFA. In the final year, you can. I think the criterion is that you can appear for CFA level 1 once you're in the final year of BCom. Okay. Ayur, we can stop the questions now.
Yeah, I think we have answered a lot of questions. Thank you so much, Arpit, for taking time on a weekday evening. I'm sure you have a lot of further stuff to do, but thank you so much, guys. If you have any other further questions, Arpit is a hotshot mentor on our platform, watchyourchase.com. Check out his profile there and book a meeting there. I think we have to close this webinar. We'll do one more in May. We'll update you with the calendar shortly. Thanks, Arpit.
Thank you, guys. Good luck for your studies as well as careers.
Yeah.